So today we are Alpha. Alpha is one of the founding members of the Black British Network, signed up by their CEO Andrew Denton. We're using their boardroom to host the steering group conversations for the Black British Network. The steering group conversations are set up to inform what we discuss at roundtable level. And with the roundtable conversations, we are bringing together thought leaders, members of the Black community, organisations across all the organisations we're working with, talent from HR to comms to chief executives to the full leadership, all the way to people that work within Black or resource groups within companies, to really compare notes, come together, measure what has worked, what hasn't worked, and to have a centralised place where we're collating and bringing together the knowledge, the learning around all the commitments that were made, all the efforts that were made after the murder of George Floyd.
I think for me personally, because I'm not coming from a corporate background, it was very informative in terms of what's going on for Black people in corporate spaces. And yeah, it was inspiring to think that there are so many Black leaders that could potentially make a lot of change and do a lot of good.
It's been really insightful. I think it's always good to hear different perspectives. I think we're all from, different companies or perspectives and things like that. And I think it's just nice to hear how different people see different things and different opinions. And I guess also just grateful to be a part of the conversation and be a part of change and just know that, this conversation isn't a conversation that goes in vain. So I know it's going to be it has been, should I say, a fruitful and actionable conversation.
It's very important to keep the conversation going regarding systemic racism, because it's something that can often be forgotten about over time and fall below the current Instagram moments that we're constantly forced upon us. My message to end systemic racism would be, let's understand what it is first.
I think probably the overwhelming feeling was that sense that all the people in the room were there for what might be referred to as the right reasons. And by that I mean that they had come with open hearts and minds, with a view to engaging with something that was of mutual benefit to us and also to a wider community.
Amazing, really energetic, challenging, quite thought-provoking, but I actually feel really optimistic. I think there is a collection of individuals that share empathy and a real community sense of making some change. I think we talk about change all the time, but I think the points that we talked to today really alluded a different perspective, and I think that's what we've been missing, the ingredients of the right people at the right time to make the change.
It's incredibly important to keep the conversation going, because it can never just be one conversation. Systemic racism, it's a big thing to tackle. It exists across society in so many different places and in different ways, and there isn't one quick fix for it. So it's incredibly important to keep that conversation alive.
Take a look at yourselves, and if you're happy to see other people being treated less than and unfairly, then what does that say about you? If you're not happy about it, what are you going to do about it? What actions are you taking? And what conversations are you having with people around you?
How amazing we can be when we come together as one. So you've got people from different industries, different walks of life, different ages, and we've connected in such an amazing way and shared experiences and perspectives, where I'll leave here today and really think about how I can act on some of that.
Sometimes I'm in awe of Black people and their strength and their resilience. For a group of people who have been continuously being degraded, told that they're not good enough, told that even just by showing up, you have to do more than somebody else. That for me is something, it's a strength.
George Floyd's murder, put more fire in everyone's belly, because I think everyone was tired. We're always tired and we're always going to be tired. And it's sad that we've had to lose yet another brother, father, uncle, and everything else that he probably was, to be able to make such a powerful change. And we know that murders always happen all the time, but I think that one was so impactful and so blatant, and the world couldn't ignore it. I think the BBN, give the Black community hope, but also give the black community kind of a pathway to actually know that something's being had and not just another conversation of asking the black person, oh, how do you feel? Are you okay? Blah, 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 when it's actually, okay, we can talk about how do you feel, but okay, let's actually change something. And I think as well, just giving the black community hope.
Yeah, it fills me with hope. And I guess hope is a driver of motivation, and as long as that hope is then turned into some tangible results in life, it just means I'm happy to contribute and play my part in the growth of the organisation.
I'd like to think it's something that everybody would want to see, or that everyone would ultimately wants to live in a society that is inclusive and equitable. Sometimes I think we can get personally, we can get caught up in we can be defensive, or we can, well, I'm not a racist. But I think to understand that this is just, I suppose, systemic racism, something that's built up over time. This is something that's built up over time, and so it's not going to be something that can be quickly unpicked. But it's, ultimately the vision of an equitable, inclusive society, I think, is something that I would hope people would aspire to.
So when something like the BBN networks, which is a centralized, I guess, voice, a place where we can kind of facilitate change in a much more coordinated way, I think they go hand in hand. So first of all, it starts from the individual. What are you doing to make sure that you are in a position where you understand what's going on first and foremost? You've understood what your capacity is, because not everyone will have to do everything. It's really about what can you do with what you have. And then when something like the BBN comes about, you are now better placed to be able to add value to that, right? And it can be something as small as, you being a youth worker and you having access to young people and understanding what their voice is and how to facilitate that voice, and then you can then tap that back into the BBN. So it's a really great centralized place that will help to collectively, I guess, coordinate diverse voices, right? And that's one of the key things in the black community. We're so diverse, we're not a monolith, but we have to try and find our commonalities, and I feel like that's what the BBN network and today is going to help. What are the commonalities? What are the key things that we can actually, that is affecting not just myself, but more than one of us, and how do we focus in and then bring that to, the people that can create change, starting with us, I guess.
I think that Safas is doing something that other organisations haven't done. Nothing is black and white in life. It's not as simple as trying to find a white or black pill. There is a grey line in between, and I think he's trying to fill that. And I just thought that the whole movement is something that is needed right now in the UK.
It is for the people who constructed, benefit from, and continue to use the systems and processes that maintain racism in place to dismantle them. It is for all of us together in our rich diversity to be the architects of something better. I think it's about having the conversation at the right level. I think that engaging with CEOs on a personal and experiential level is probably more likely to have serious impact than going through systems and policies and paper strategies. With the context of the black community, I think simply by being as inclusive and as discerning as Cephas has been in terms of not wishing to rush. I think he used the expression, and forgive me Cephas if I'm misquoting you, focusing on the strength rather than the glory. I think that means that you move at a slower pace and with a much greater clarity about what the outcome is that you seek.
Black people are here to stay. You can't get rid of all of us. And also that it's important for the overall survival, growth, development of this British Empire that we all work together. starting the conversation is one, but starting and having the conversation at a higher level than it usually happens. Starting the having the conversation that is completely objective, bold and courageous. That is, I think, the difference with the BBN and anyone else, and that's why I gravitate towards it.
Check Cephas out. He's a really interesting individual. He's been doing some great stuff, so many brilliant initiatives. If anyone hasn't seen his 56 Black Men project, or the last Portrait of Black Britain that he did more recently, then they should check those out, because those are powerful statements in themselves. But behind the scenes, he's doing so much more for the community, with great energy, with great sincerity. I have a lot of time for him. I think that's why we're all here this afternoon.
The session's been really good. It's been really insightful to hear other people's views in terms of what they're thinking about, let's say, the Black experience and the Black journey, especially since George Floyd, in terms of, you know, what's happened from an organisational point of view as well as a community point of view. It's just really good for people to be able to come together and actually discuss how far we've got, what else needs to be done, and all of those different areas that we need to look into a little bit more, and just kind of make it more of a solution orientated session was great as well, because then at least you kind of feel like you come away with an action plan, as opposed to you've just had a discussion and potentially you may not move any forward.
One thing I've not done is chosen what would be seen as perhaps the usual suspects. What I wanted to do is choose people from different walks of life that I've come across, and people that have engaged and connected with not just me but the Black British Network in some capacity too. And again, my mission in doing that is not to polarise the Black conversation, which can often be the case where you have these are the best of us or these are the worst of us, and you bring the best in the Black community together. That's not my interest here. My interest is to bring as many people together as possible, whether they're seen as, you know, the best of Black people or not, but all competent and able to contribute to a centralised conversation towards change. So I think today's session has been great. It's been interesting to hear everyone's contribution and what everyone's bringing to the table, and I'm really looking forward to dissecting, I guess, the knowledge that was shared, the wisdom that was shared, the experience that was shared, and kind of stitching that together to inform what we do with the next stage of the Roundtable Conversations.